This study has been giving a lot of street cred and a lot of conversation and probably some correct analysis and some incorrect analysis and some really incorrect analysis. And that is a study from the company of UHaul. What is going on, DeRosa Insiders? It's Matt Faircloth. Welcome to the Cash Flow Digest show. As I said, my name is Matt Faircloth, and I work at a company that's phenomenal. You might have heard of called the DeRosa Group. I am one of the founders of this company, and I'm super proud of the company we've created and the community we've created here at DeRosa Insiders that all stands for the mantra of transforming lives through real estate, making the world a better place through real estate investing. That's what we do here at the DeRosa Group. I'm going to bring in my man, Hervé, the brother from another mother. Hervé Francois, how are you?
Appreciate you, Matt. Thanks very much. Happy New Year to you. Happy New Year to everyone attending and all of our guests. It's outstanding. Hope everyone had a great holiday. We're back at it. We're back at it. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
You as well. And I love that we Frenchified your name now here on the Cash Flow Digest.
Now you're going to have to pronounce it this way. I mean, you got to make,
I kind of do. I don't know. I might need your help with that. But it's Hervé, right? With the E. You kind of give a little.
I'm doing it correctly the whole time anyway. But you don't. Yeah, other folks need.
I listen to you when you say it. Your name's not Harvey, like other people try and call you. You know.
Exactly. Right? Exactly. Other folks need a lot.
Herv. That's my favorite. When we'll be on a Zoom call with a broker or something like that, and people start calling Hervé Herv. Yeah. I'm like, I start shaking my head like, oh boy, if they do it, I start counting down how many times they're gonna do it before Hervé's gonna come after him.
You give him about 3-4 chances.
3, 2, 1. How many Hervs does it take before Hervé blows his top? Right?
Yeah. You know? I appreciate you for sometimes even stepping in to tell the person, hey, you're mispronouncing Hervé.
Right. Like, why don't you knock that off and call him Hervé? You know, like name me one other person you met in the world named Herv. Okay. Yes. Right. Well, why would you even butcher his name that way? Today, I want to talk to you about a study that's out on the market right now. And this study has been giving a lot of street cred and a lot of conversation and probably some correct analysis and some incorrect analysis and some really incorrect analysis, people really boiling it down to just mean maybe way more than it does, right? And that is a study from the company of UHaul, right? Yeah. First of all, why does it matter? Why do we care? The data that UHaul, I mean, the report that you and I are going to talk about today is UHaul rentals one way, going from one place to another place, right? So let's start there. You tell me, why do I even care? I mean, I kind of just said it, right? But it's pretty obvious. Why do people care about the UHaul data of where people are renting U-Hauls and where they're taking them? Yeah,
so UHaul comes out with this study at the beginning of each year, and they look back over the past 12 months. What are the most U-Haul destinations? Where have people been renting their U-Hauls to go to? And then they go ahead and they list those cities. They'll give you a top 10 or top 15 list. So from there, typically what is easy to do is to extrapolate from that list. Oh, if the number one city on this list that UHaul has put out, let's say is St. Louis, Missouri, for example, right, middle of the US. Well, that means so many people across the country must be moving to St. Louis, Missouri. Let's think about whether or not St. Louis, Missouri is an attractive place to invest from real estate investors.
Well, let's don't even get into the analysis of it yet, right? Because you just said it. First of all, the UHaul report's broken down by state, and you've corrected me a long time ago when I first met you because you were like, hey man, where are you investing? And I'm like, North Carolina. Like, that's not a market. I'm like, yeah, it is. That's a state. Right. No, man. Listen, a state is not a market. A market is a microcosm inside that state.
That's right.
For example, we're going to talk about the state of Texas in a second here, right? Okay. Texas has seen a phenomenal amount of U-Hauls being rented. Let's say that. Yep. U-Haul, that is one of the top markets here. U-Hauls being rented and driven to the state of Texas. But that's the thing. Texas is like one of the largest states in the union, right? Yeah, right. They're not taking them everywhere. They're probably taking them to a handful of MSAs, inside the state of Texas. Okay? Yes. So that's the first filter you guys need to consider here. This is a state-based analysis, not a MSA-based analysis. Let's take a look at the report, and then I'll give you the filter I've heard people put on this thing, and then you and I can get into a real analysis of these numbers and maybe give an alternative as well.
Sounds good.
All right. So here's the UHaul report. Those of you guys that are lucky enough to be watching live on Insiders, you guys can grab this report yourself and take a look at this. Guys, this is a report that's out. And as Hervé said, this gets released on an annual basis. The report says, okay, now, y'all, I probably could have asked those that are watching live on Facebook, okay, guys, guess where you think that UHaul says America's moving to? And people would have been like, well, let's see, Texas, Florida, the Carolinas, let's start there, right? Oh, and then dang, you're right. Okay. And those that I've seen analyze this like to high five themselves, those that are already investing in Texas and Florida, say, look, you see, I told you, look how right we are, you know, and then that. So the growth states, according to UHaul, and again, one more time, guys, what this is saying is that these are places that people are renting U-Hauls anywhere in the continental United States from, and they're leaving that U-Haul. So one-way trip, leaving that U-Haul in the state of Texas, and then making it U-Haul's problem to get it back where it needs to go, right? So then Texas, Florida, Carolinas, Hervé, Tennessee, Idaho, interesting, right? That might have been a horse that people wouldn't have expected to see in the race here. Washington State, Arizona, Colorado, and Virginia, of all places. Little side note there, put that in your cap for later conversations. By the way, Hervé, Vermont, what? Vermont, really? Utah, Wyoming. Now we get towards the middle states here. A lot of the stuff.
All right,
now,
so they make all 50 for you.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Right. And then all 50. Now let's talk about the bottom. And this is where a lot of people like to talk about, like, the one or two top states at the top and a couple of the states at the bottom. And California is the 50th state of places where people are going. And this means that people are aggregately, according to the U-Haul data, and the way that people are reading this to mean is that people are leaving California. Right. And that, which all that really means is people are renting U-Hauls one way and moving to California and bringing them to California in the least amount of velocity. Right. Okay. So there you go. So that's what this is saying.
The number next to the state in parentheses was the ranking for that state in 2022.
Oh,
all right. So that's what that means. So for example, you've got North Carolina is ranked third from 2023. It moves up one spot. It was ranked fourth in 2022.
Look at you throwing curveballs at me, Hervé. I didn't know you were going to go there. Now, not surprising. Texas, number one. Hey, number one. Florida, number one. Number two. Guys, that's maybe not even worth discussing because we already know why. But what's interesting is to look at the risers and fallers, right?
Yep.
Washington State, interesting. It was number 23, now number 7. That's interesting. Arizona, right around the same. Colorado, a little bit on the rise. Okay. Virginia on the drop. What? Oh, interesting to note. Nevada, a little bit on the rise. But guys, Vermont, how interesting is that? I actually don't have much of a conversation with you guys on that. What I want you guys to do here, we at DeRosa Insiders are not here to give you guys all the answers. We're here to discuss things. So if you guys are watching this program either live or recorded, let's have a discussion on Vermont. I don't know. Somebody that knows, jump in, right? Why is Vermont on the rise like that? Maybe somebody wants to go run some data on it and discuss it with us. But I'd love to hear some opinions here live or offline as to why. That is an interesting jump. Vermont was number 30 and is now number 12. In places that people are renting U-Hauls and going to. And Hervé, you got other data that you want to show us that involves that lovely state right there. Wyoming on the rise as well. Hervé, Delaware. What? Delaware. Yeah, I know. Delaware on the rise. That's interesting too, right? Now down the bottom here, we can go down the bottom and say, like, listen to say who's fallen off the map. And that, but you tend to see a lot of your Louisiana on the big fall. Okay, that's interesting to note as well, guys. You guys can run your own data on this report as well. But I also want to put, I'm going to drop a grain of salt in this thing in a second here. As Hervé, I'll let Hervé do that. But Hervé, before I let you give your thoughts here, I want to just give you a curveball. Okay, not curveball. I'm going to give you the interpretation I've heard of this. You give me the curveball. I'm going to give you the interpretation I have seen on other social media channels, including lots of folks shouting this from the mountaintop on Facebook that are either making this mean something politically. What? We don't want to go all there, right? I'm going to identify the third rail that I'm not going to touch. I'm just going to point to it real quick. Okay,
but it's there. I'll go there. You know me. I'm not afraid to go there. I'll go roll up my sleeves. We can go.
Views and opinions expressed by Hervé Francois are not necessarily views and opinions, right? But at the end of the day, guys, people are pointing to this report as a direct means as to, like, oh, people don't like the California politics, and so they're going to Florida and Texas. Throughout North Carolina, because that's a different political scene, isn't it? But they're saying, oh, look, California at the bottom, Florida and Texas at the top. Yay. That means that my politics are correct or my politics are incorrect, whatever it means, right? That's, first of all y'all know that's not true. Okay. Deep down, it's good to just read these things briefly, but there's a lot more to this report, and there's a lot of holes in this report as well. Right. So Hervé, give me a few brief, like, why is this data interesting, but also give me why we should take a ginormous 3-pound bag of salt with this data here. Go ahead.
Again, no, listen, it's a great question. Again, every year this data comes out from U-Haul. There are other, shipping companies that also put out similar data in regards to where, most of their rentals have been, going to on one-way destinations and so on and forth, what states and things like that. The reason why you take it with a grain of salt is there's a variety of reasons why folks are moving. Yes, I think some of the bigger reasons, particularly when you see states like Texas and Florida up top as number 1 and number 2, respectively, for back-to-back years, there's obvious reasons why you've been seeing influx migration of folks into those 2 states. Interestingly enough, however, for 2 different reasons in regards to the top reason why people move to Texas, the top reason why people move to Florida. For Texas, it's going to be, no surprisingly, the job growth, right? It's the job growth. It is the lower cost of living relative to where folks are moving from. And it is the ability to go ahead and to afford buying a house, particularly versus where they're coming from. Where's a lot of migration coming from? It's coming from states like California, right? It's coming from states like California, where particularly if you're in Southern Cal, LA, average price to buy a home over $800,000, can't afford it, got to move down to a place where the jobs are. You hear about Tesla shutting down their facility over there in Silicon Valley, moving into Austin, Texas. Another report out today that they're going to expand on that facility in Austin, Texas. So a lot of technology jobs, a lot of universities, a lot of healthcare businesses down there in Texas. So the number one reason is jobs and obviously cost of living. But then when you look at a state like Florida, you have a lot of folks moving to Florida from the Northeast, up by where you and I live here, Matt, in Pennsylvania, Jersey, New York, Connecticut. However, the number one reason folks move into Florida is not necessarily jobs as much as it is retirement. It's retirement as well as cost of living. So cost of living is a top two reason for both states as to why folks are moving. Now, in regards to, do I look at this data in its whole and in a nutshell and saying, okay, based on the data that I see here, this is going to be the determining factor of where I want to do my real estate investing? Absolutely not, because there's a lot more digging. There's a lot more information.
I can't just go and start investing in a market just because U-Haul says that a lot of people are renting a U-Haul in one state and leaving it one way in another state.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Right.
It's not what I heard on Facebook, Hervé.
Right.
With regard, they saying I should move to those markets and vote the way that those markets are voting, and that I should also start investing in those markets, and
so on and so forth. No,
big tall glass of Kool-Aid sitting right here. No,
right.
Exactly. No Kool-Aid.
Exactly. Folks, there's a lot of other metrics that you have to utilize to determine really an attractive market for you to invest, right? And I'm not by any stretch of the imagination, Matt or I, saying that markets inside Texas and Florida are not attractive to invest. A lot of folks have invested in Texas and Florida over the years and have done very, very well for themselves and will continue to. The job growth in certain markets within Texas is very, very real. We get all of that, right? But you still need to do your homework. Where you see a lot of jobs being created in Texas, well, what's the offset? The offset is a lot of supply of multifamily units coming into some of those healthy markets in Texas. So you have to be very careful. Are you going to be able to get the rent growth that you're looking for in a value-added?
You mean other people are reading this data too? Huh.
Yeah.
It's not a secret that a lot of people are moving to Texas. Again, I know people that are investing in Texas, and I have heard that there is a major occupancy issue in Texas because of how overbuilt it is. In a lot of the major MSAs in Texas, like Dallas, Austin. Again, somebody asked for major MSAs in Texas, right? I mean, we all know them already, right? Big ones: Austin, Dallas, Houston, and then submarkets like San Antonio and stuff like that. There's cranes all over these towns, right? Secret's out, guys. And if you're going to invest there, you're up against those that got into the ground a year ago to build something, and they're going to be competing for rental, even if you're not building brand new. I've heard that the pressure that Class A new construction is providing in these markets is affecting Class C investments. Absolutely. That it's pushing down that far because of how much competition there is to get Class A leased up, right?
Absolutely. All kind of concessions being put out there to fill up those units and so on.
Sure. Got to do. Yeah. A friend of mine told me that they've seen 2 months worth of rent free to rent in some of these markets. Properties. If you own in that market, that is what you're up against. The tenant that's looking to rent in your Class B, Class C rental, even if it's like a duplex or whatever, is also looking at the brand new construction 150 unit apartment building with the iPad built into the wall, right? That's going to give them 2 months for free. Right. Now, Hervé, transitioning I want to give a few more curveballs for you guys to consider. Then we're going to look at another report, and then we're going to move on. But just to bring it home here, I want to give you guys a few other curveballs, right? When you look at this report, okay? When you consider U-Haul. At the end of the day, right? When people rent a U-Haul, they're not always moving to a new location, right? When I went to college, I rented a U-Haul. Okay. My parents rented a U-Haul. Some Americans rent U-Hauls to take their kids to college. That factor skews these numbers. Number one. Number two, when people decide that they're going to move an office or move heavy objects from one place to another that won't fit inside a pickup truck, they're going to do what? They're going to U-Haul, right? It's very common. And they're going to leave the U-Haul where they took it. They're maybe not going to take it back where they got it from because it's easier that way to just take it where they're taking it and then leave it there, right? So those factors throw it off. I already said earlier that a state is not a market, right? So consider all these things in. These may be initiating conversations, guys, but it's something that you should use as the beginning of your investigations. Absolutely. I want to throw another report out, Hervé. We don't have to live in it too long. But another report that I want you guys to consider when you're doing your data research, and maybe not making a decision, but just doing your research on where you want to do your investing or validating your existing already decisions to invest. And let's take a look at another report that Hervé was kind enough to share with me. And Hervé, I learned a lot talking to you about this. Yeah, just as soon as yesterday. The United Van Lines report. Right now, Hervé, real quick, why would the United Van Lines report be worth discussing over the UHaul report?
Yeah, right. So when you think about the renting of a UHaul versus the renting of the United Van Lines, right, they're probably not even in the same comp set, if you will, right? U-Hauls versus United Van Lines. You might think of a U-Haul versus a Ryder more so than U-Haul versus United Van Lines. Why is that? Folks typically rent U-Hauls to go ahead and move out of their 1 or 2 bedroom apartment to go ahead and move into another one, right? Folks are renting United Van Lines to move an entire house, right? A 3-4 bedroom house that also have family room, living room, maybe even a basement, kitchen, and so on and so forth. So we take the U-Haul data with a little more grain of salt versus the data that comes out of United Van Lines, because United Van Lines, you see these big 18-wheeler trucks on the highways, and again, most likely moving folks out of their single-family homes from one state to another, right? Very more known for, I would say, cross-country and intra-state travel versus U-Haul inter-state travel within the state, and so on and so forth. So people moving from one city in Florida to another city in Florida, most likely U-Haul. People moving from, let's say, New York down to Florida, most likely United Van Lines.
I found this to be really, really interesting, because this report is also showing where people are moving out of and where people are moving to. But let me just show a little bit of data here in the map, and then we'll get to the list real brief, and then I'll just kind of let you guys make your own decisions from there, right? Take a look at this map. Now, this is an interactive map, a lot better than the U-Haul, just a list, right? I can click on the state of Florida right here, okay, and see if this shows. There it goes. This. Well, that's interesting. It tells me the age range of the people that are moving to and from the state, what their income is. Primary reason for going to Florida, Hervé, in the United Van Lines. Look at this.
29%.
29% of the people going to Florida are going there for retirement. Shocker. Of course, guys, all y'all knew that. It's not because of politics. It's because people are retiring. It's what people do when they go to Florida. They retire, right?
Right.
Some for family, be closer to family. That's possible, right? And maybe that's because you're being closer to someone that you know that's retired that lives there. Right?
Absolutely, closer to retirees.
Let me give you another mind blower, okay? Look at this. 40% of the people moving to Florida, 40% are over the age of 65.
Yeah.
Right? If you add in the number of people that are over the age of 55 and the ages, so everybody over 55 moving to Florida, you get to 66%. Okay, look at how interesting this is. If you look at the amount of people over 45, you get into the 80s of the percents of people that are moving to Florida, right? Now, it's not a good thing or a bad thing. All this means is that what's really happening is the amount of people moving to Florida are likely doing so because they're retiring, right? That is what it is. And I'm not saying it's wrong or right or whatever it is, but that's the real data. If your investment strategy involves people that are retiring, you got a silver tsunami going to Florida right now. That's where you want to bring your party, okay? But what's the most interesting here, Hervé, and I'll leave it here because Hervé already said it. This is about people relocating and moving their homes, moving their homesteads. And this also shows their income that they're bringing, the real expendable dollars they're bringing into those markets. This is a real interesting report. Let's just hit this list real quick. What? The number one? Number one? Are you kidding me? Vermont. Interesting.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Guys, this is like secret insider information. Okay, guys? Nobody's talking about that. Yeah. Why? Right? It's not just because of the cheese and maple syrup, Hervé.
Well, let's click on the state of Vermont. Test of geography, Matt. Where's Vermont?
It is.
Oh, they gave you the initial.
I can't pronounce it right, but I also know the capital is Montpelier. I didn't say it right.
Good, very good.
French guy, but you know.
Well, if you want French guy, Montpellier.
Right.
Montpellier. All right. So what's the primary reason of folks moving into Vermont? Look at that, 28% family. Interesting, right?
14% retirement. That's not
right? Job.
Yep. Lifestyle and family lifestyle job is the likely is the primary mover there, right?
And now I was reading somewhere, Matt. This lines up with something I was reading online as to why so many folks have been moving to Vermont over the past couple of years. Believe it or not, it was really spurred on by the pandemic. Folks wanted a quote unquote cleaner place to live, a place that had not gotten overrun by the pandemic, that you can comfortably and calmly work from home. A lot of remote work allowed by employers in Vermont. If you don't mind the cold, obviously, a lot of outdoor activities when it comes to skiing and so on and so forth.
I wish I lived in Vermont. We're supposed to get a bunch of snow in the Northeast right now. I wish I lived in Vermont because I would be out there carving up the slopes tomorrow.
That's interesting. And let's remember, Vermont was also on that UHaul list as well. It wasn't number one, but it was on that UHaul list as well. So when I look at, two contrasting lists, one of the things that I like to do is to see the overlaps of states that show up on both lists. And Vermont did show up on both. So, nevertheless.
One more of it. Look at this. 50%. I have not seen that number on, and I've researched this map because I like to click and look at numbers and stuff like that, right? 50% of the people moving to Vermont make over 150 grand a year, right? Half of them. There's a lot of money, a lot of people, and a lot of money going to Vermont, and that is a small state, right? Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Yeah. Guys, the link to this report is here in this. I want you guys to go grab it and post your thoughts. Hervé, Eric Platter is reading your mind for our next conversation.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
I know. Eric, stick around, brother. We're going to validate you in a second here. But guys, what I want to take home here is that there's more to, there's conversations that get generated from data. What I want you guys to do when you guys pull data on these things is to make it encouraging you to go pull more data. So why Vermont? Why Texas? Why Florida? Why not California? Right? I got people that are investing in California right now and making a killing. Right? It's not that you can't invest in California. You got to just know where to do it, why to do it, and how to do it. Right? And so the data should cause you to just ask more questions, maybe not make a decision. And as you start asking more questions and those answers come up and maybe more data gets pulled, you start making an aggregate argument as to why left or why right, which is where Hervé is going to take us in a second here. So guys, that's our thoughts on the UHaul report. I hope you guys take it for what it is, which is our thoughts. And let's transition, man.
Let's do it.
Hervé, good to have you here with me today on the Cash Flow Digest, man. And you are our market analysis guy. And a lot of people come to me and say, hey, I want to invest. I want to get going. Where should I do it? In your own backyard, fine. But if you guys are watching this and you guys are looking for a new market to invest in, or if you're looking for a market that you guys want to get started in, right? The first thing you guys want to do is go to derosagroup.com and download the Market Hunter tool that Hervé spent many, many hours developing. That's derosagroup.com/market tool. Okay. And Hervé, that tool is something you worked hard on, right? Give us like a second overview of what that is and why people should jump out and grab that.
The rundown on the market analysis tool is really, it gives like a snapshot, a summary, if you will, of the metrics that we use to help to determine a real, solid market to invest in for your real estate portfolio. It gives you the link to the resources that we use to find those metrics, things like population growth, job growth. And in so doing, you score some points based off of that market that you are doing analysis on, where it stands relative to the overall USA kind of thing. And if it scores a certain range, then, great place to invest, and so on and so forth. So a lot of folks are always asking us, hey, where do you find this information? What metrics, what resources do you guys use? What tools do you use? And all of that information is available right there on the market analysis tool. And like Matt was saying earlier, it's all free. Just go to derosagroup.com/market tools. So it's a great piece of information.
Hervé, thank you. Always enjoy doing the Cash Flow Digest with you today. Looking forward to having you back on soon, man. Thank you for joining us.
Guys, have a great one. Happy New Year again.
See you guys then. Happy Friday. Happy weekend, everybody. Take care. Hey guys, Matt Faircloth here. Thank you for listening again to the Cash Flow Digest. I really appreciate you guys doing that. If you guys want to hear more about what DeRosa Group has to offer, go to DeRosa Group, DeRosagroup.com, DeRosagroup.com online. You can hear about all the great things that we offer from an educational standpoint and passive investment standpoint on our website. See you there. And if you guys want to join our online community, DeRosa Insiders on Facebook, where you can watch this program get recorded every Friday at noon Eastern, and you can come on as even a guest or ask questions on the show. We hope to see you guys on our online community, DeRosa Insiders. See you there.